The president of the United States, and I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about any president, has to have immunity. Because if you take immunity away from the president, so important, you will have a president that's not going to be able to do anything. Because when he leaves office, the opposing party, president, if it's the opposing party, will indict the president for doing something that should have been good. If they don't have immunity, no president is going to act. You're going to have guys that just sit in office and are afraid to do anything.
So Donald Trump is, of course, still pushing for full immunity for the president against all of the charges he's facing, 91 indictments at present, and we are waiting to find out exactly what's going to happen with that. But he isn't just doing it in video form. He's waking up in the dead middle of the night to post on Truth Social about it. And in these posts, I think there was actually something interesting. So see if you can spot it in this first message. He says, in all caps, mind you, a president of the United States must have full immunity, without which it would be impossible for him or her to properly function. Any mistake, even if well-intended, would be met with almost certain indictment by the opposing party at term end. Even events that cross the line must fall under total immunity, or it'll be years of trauma, blah, 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 blah. Is that the first acknowledgement from Donald Trump of illegal acts having been committed? That he says, even events that cross the line. He's never admitted that he did anything wrong previously. He's saying that this is all made up, it's election interference. I think that's an indication, an admission that they did go too far. It shouldn't matter, there should be no consequences, but that illegal acts were committed.
We're implying it was accidental. He tripped and fell and inadvertently caused a terrorist attack on our Capitol. That's, but at least he looks healthy, John. He looks terrific, and we got to give him that. But I'm glad he's taking this issue on, because anyone who studies history knows that our founders really believed in this and thought that a president should have full immunity from any crimes they commit, because our founders really missed having a king. And liberals don't want you to know this, but this is what it was all about. If you deprive presidents of full immunity, that's going to keep a lot of criminals from ever seeking high office. And I don't really, I mean, you'd think the deep state would figure that out.
That's what they're depriving us of, and I think that's really unfortunate. So thank you for pointing that out. How does he say that with a straight face? Like the cross the line thing, I think is more about. I'm with you. It's oh well, sure, it wasn't as graceful as we wanted. We thought we were just going to go in and just peacefully remove the ballots and replace them with better ballots. And I don't think it's an admission of guilt. Certainly at a time where he's facing all of these, various criminal cases, everything is being hyper scrutinized, even down to his language. I think this is just, well, it wasn't as polished as it could have been. Mistakes were made. Maybe they shouldn't have broken the windows. I think if you wanted to read into that, like they could go in there, but just you don't destroy the property.
I mean, he's in court right now arguing both that Joe Biden has the right to assassinate him anytime he wants, and that Kamala Harris has the right to seat false electors in 2025 if Biden loses. He's fighting for Democrats to do that right now. This is the Republican Party 50 years after Nixon. We have gone from I am not a crook to a crook is not a crook.
I thank you for reminding me of that. Every once in a while, I'll get caught up like in the fact that Joe Biden isn't polling so well, and I have to remind myself, Harris can just give him the election anyway, and I feel a lot better.
It's also remember, these polls are polls of people who answer their landline phones or answer their cell phone when they don't know who the caller is, not necessarily the most accurate cross-section of America.
That is entirely possible. It just, like you brought up two of the I think the largest hypocrisies on the right. Like Donald Trump should be immune from any prosecution. Should Biden? Of course not.
Especially as vice president. I don't know if you know this, but you can impeach a president for stuff he might have done as vice president, but not for stuff he actually did as president.
Exactly.
You understand?
That's a weak spot in Biden's legal fortunes. But yeah, it's just like they don't mean it. They don't, and it's one of the most frustrating things about discussing politics, because politics is obviously an incredibly consequential topic. It determines the life and death of so many people, and we are raised to believe that there's people on the left, there's people on the right, there's people who are pro-life, there's people who are pro-abortion or whatever. And there are some people who mean what they say and others who don't give a damn about what they say. It's all just, what am I accomplishing right now as I'm saying it? I am not stating a principle. It might seem like I am. It might look like the things people do when they're expressing an actual value or principle, but they're not. They don't think that Biden should be immune from prosecution. They don't think that Harris can overturn the results of an election. They don't mean any of this.
They don't mean anything they say. They're not against abortion. Okay, if they were against abortion, they would be for sex ed and access to birth control. They're not against illegal immigration. If they gave a damn about illegal immigration, they would start locking up the white people who hand out all the jobs and put up the gigantic help wanted sign at our border that no wall can ever hide. If Republicans wanted undocumented immigration to end tomorrow, they could do it. They don't care. They need the issue. They don't mean anything they claim to fight for. There's no sincerity whatsoever. The entire agenda, all conservatism means at this point is owning the libs and blind obedience to a reality show landlord. That's conservatism.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a cult of unmanly obedience.
Yeah, and think back to the early Obama years, the freakouts about just conversations around the Affordable Care Act, which we now see is it has still protected the private healthcare industry.
Amen.
The signs that we saw likening Obama to a dictator, that he would basically
Prayer against care.
Yeah, increase the coverage age to 26. That is that's a bridge too far. He's a dictator. The signs that we saw, especially during the Tea Party movement, the conversations around him, even just down to him picking people for specific issues and giving them the car czar. Do you remember the freakouts over just the word czar?
He used the word czar.
Yeah.
Yes, because they didn't know that Reagan and Bush had czars
Right.
the entire time.
And then the Biden crime family, we see the same sort of arguments against him and his alleged illegality. They don't have any consistency. Not that surprises anybody.
He's a feeble-minded dementia patient who doesn't know where he is, and a criminal mastermind so shrewd he's never left a bit of evidence. It's a fascinating character, gentlemen. I think you're selling him short.
Very skilled.
Yeah, and again, all the anxiety we had under the Obama years when we were hearing about Fast and Furious and everything, but he's immune. He could do literally whatever he wants.
Cannot break the law.
When Alex Jones was talking about Jade Helm and everything, Obama can invade Texas. He can do literally whatever he wants.
Why did Bill Clinton say he didn't technically lie under oath? What was he thinking? Bill Clinton could have just lied under oath and had his opponents killed, and it would have been fine. Donald Trump says so. We learn things.
Yeah, man, how the right has moved. By the way, I was just randomly thinking recently about Jade Helm. Trump and his inner circle of who's going to be in the White House in the second term are talking about deploying hundreds of thousands of soldiers to the border and building a network of internment camps.
Yeah.
And Alex Jones used to get freaked out because there was an FBI officer in Texas. There's been a lot of movement since then.
Socialist internment camps.
That's true. Yeah. I guess they're not worried about getting locked up.
Helping you out, Dems. There's your argument.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.